Hello and welcome to the Sewing Studio. Today I'm going to show you how to make this quilt top, and I've made this using Janet Clare's fabric called Botanicals by Moda. Now with this design you can make it with a layer cake which you can cut down, or you can just buy the meterage of fabric and cut your squares. So this is made using 10-inch squares and 5-inch squares. And then our sashing pieces are 2.5 inches and 3 inches. So as we go along, I'll show you how that all fits together. You can make this as big as you want or as small as you want. I've actually made 5 rows and 5 columns. So I've got 25 squares on my quilt. And for that, my background fabric, I needed 2 meters for that size quilt. So I'll give you the measurements at the end, and I'm just going to show you how we do that. So first of all, I'm going to I've got 5-inch squares here. So I've got 2 5-inch squares of my background fabric, and I've got 2 5-inch squares of one of the feature fabrics. And then I've got a 10-inch square of one of the other feature fabrics, and I love this one because this looks like it's got feathers on it. So I'm just going to go to the machine now. I'm going to join that together to make a 4 patch, and how we have to do it is we have in our bottom right corner we have 1 feature fabric, and then in our top left we have the other one. So that's the design. So I'm just going to go to the sewing machine now and put that together. So I'm now going to join my 2 5-inch squares together, a background piece and one of the feature fabrics. Now I'm just going to press those before we join them again. So I'm just going to press these, and I'm going to press the fabric towards the darker fabric, pressing my seam flat. And then I'm going to go back to the machine and I'm going to join those together. So I'm just going to show you on this camera how I'm joining them together so I get a nice even cross in the middle. So I've pressed one way and one the other. If I show you on this camera, you might be able to see it a bit better. So I'm pushing those 2 seams together. I'm just going to pop a pin in to hold that centre, and then I'm going to sew them together. And as always, it's a 1/4 inch seam. Now, before I go back to the iron to press this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the next bit of joining up, which is our 10-inch square. So this is our 10-inch square, and the border that this needs for the sashing is 2.5 inches. And what we're going to do is we're going to sash down the right-hand side and along the bottom. So I'm just going to put that on now while I'm at the machine. And I'm just going to finger press that back. Normally I would go to the iron to do that, but for today, to show you what I'm doing, I'm just going to finger press that back, and then along the bottom I'm going to sew the other 2.5 inch strip. And now I'm going back to the iron to press these. So I'm just going to tidy that up in a moment. I'll press this one next, making sure our seams are all nice and flat. So on this one, we're going to put a 3-inch border down the right-hand side and along the bottom. And the reason we're doing a 3 on this one is because we've already lost a 1/2 inch joining these. So this one is 2.5 border. This is 3 border. So I'm going to go back to the machine. I'm going to pop this on and then I'm going to come back and trim these and show you how we lay them out. So the important thing here to remember when you put your border on is in the bottom right hand corner, you're going to have one of your feature fabrics and then you're going to put your border on the right hand side. Again, I'm just going to flip that back and finger press it. Normally I would do that at the iron. And then we put the next border on. I've got a little bit of extra fabric there, which I can trim up afterwards. It isn't the end of the world. I'm going back to the iron now. So I'm just going to tidy these up. So we've got a little bit of extra going on here. I'd always rather have too much than not enough because you can always trim a little bit off. Just tidy up my threads. So this is one block, and just tidy this one up because we've got a little bit extra on this one. And this is our next block. So how you lay the quilt out is you go one with 2 squares on it, and then the next one you do the feature square. And then the next one would have 2 squares and the feature square and so on. And you can make it as big as you want. Now, the only difference here is when you've laid it all out, when it is how you want it, before you sew it together, on your top row, you are going to need to put your border. So as you can see on the quilt behind me, on the bottom row, you can see your border's already there. And your border is there on your right hand side, but your top row and anything on your left hand side, those squares need to be bordered before you join them all together. So if this was going to be my top left corner, I would need to put another row around it. And if this was going to be my top row, I would need to put another one there and another one there, so you can see how it fits onto the quilt behind. The rest of it all goes together perfectly, so you just need to remember whatever pieces you choose for your top row need to have a top border, and when it's your top left, it needs to have a top and a side border. So we're now just going over to see how the top has been put together. So you can see I've put this together and I've used one feature block, then 2 squares, then another feature one, and so on. So it's 5 blocks across by 5 down. It measures approximately 60 inches. So you can make this as big as you want or as small as you want. The next thing I need to think about is how I'm going to quilt it. So I'm probably going to do some cross hatching down through these squares. I'm not going to put any more border on it. I'm probably going to put a binding on it, which is a nice dark fabric, maybe this one. So as I say, you can either do it with a layer cake, or you can buy the fabrics that you like and you can cut those into the size squares that you want. So as always, make it your own, have fun, and I look forward to seeing you here in the sewing studio the next time.